For 3 years, Hagler saw Hearns in his future as far back as 1982. They were scheduled to meet, but a Hearns hand injury intervened.
I'm not going in there for injury. And when I go in there, I want to be in tip-top condition and great health.
Finally, the fight was canceled. Hagler was livid.
And he was going to make $2 million. He turned down $2 million. In the first beginning, Ray, he started complaining about his little baby Pinky. You know how many people will give $1 million for that little baby Pinky? They cut that thing off.
And come April 15, in 3 rounds, I would be the greatest.
And Tommy said, I'm going to be laying down there and his hands are going to be raised. I feel almost the same way, but when the smoke clears, because I'm coming out smoking, as you know, but when the smoke clears, it'll be my hands that'll be raised.
After 3 long years, the war of words will be settled amidst the neon of Las Vegas, Nevada. Hagler and Hearns have descended upon Caesar's Palace to end their dispute and treat the public to the fight of the year. The hype is over, and the drama begins as we await the opening bell between 2 great champions, Marvelous Marvin Hagler and Thomas Hearns.
And we are live from Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada, where Top Rank presents World Championship Boxing. It's time for the main event. It's scheduled for 12 rounds. Marvelous Marvin Hagler against Thomas Hitman Hearns. And look at this scene here. You know, the middleweight division has always been one of the most popular. The men are big enough to hurt. They're little enough to be quick, deceptive in the ring. Sugar Ray Robinson is here tonight. He's been voted the greatest middleweight champ of all time. How about the 2 old-timers? Stanley Ketchel, the Michigan assassin. Harry Greb, who fought the last part of his career with one eye. Then there was a toy bulldog, Mickey Walker, who lived on the fast track. And the smooth man from Argentina, Carlos Monzon, who defended his middleweight title 14 times, and that's the goal, the mark that Marvin Hagler is after. So there you have some of the great middleweights of all time. Gene Fulmer's here tonight, Carmen Basilio from Syracuse, and you've already met Jake LaMotta. Right now, we're going to meet the fighters themselves. We're going to see some of their highlights of their career, and we're going to hear them from the last moment now in person.
First, a look at the champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, the undisputed middleweight champion of the world, Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
The road to the title was frustrating for the Marvelous One. It was back on November 30th, 1979, that Hagler had his first shot at Vito Antuofermo's middleweight crown. In one of the most controversial decisions in the last decade, the fight was ruled a draw. Vito kept the belt, and Marvin walked away empty and bitter. But he used that anger almost 1 year later to fuel a vicious assault on the reigning champion, Alan Minter. Hagler had promised not to leave the decision in the hands of the judges. After 7 long years and 3 brutal rounds, Marvelous Marvin Hagler had won the middleweight title. Yet even in victory, a hostile British crowd hurled bottles rather than accolades at the new champion. With each defense, his image grew. On October 3rd, 1981, in his 3rd defense, Hagler was deadly accurate. He pitched an 11-round shutout of Mustafa Hamsho. The 55 stitches administered to the challenger have now become a grotesque reminder of Hagler's dominance. A year later, Fulgencio Oval Mejias had risen from the depths of a previous loss to the middleweight champion. This deadly right hand may have been Hagler's most devastating one-punch knockout of his career. Fully Oval would not return again. February 11th, 1983, in his 6th defense, a tough Brit, Tony Simpson, fought hard for 6 rounds. But Marvelous Marvin was just too strong. In typical Hagler fashion, the #1 challenger was beaten into the canvas. Then, on November 10th, 1983, Marvelous Marvin Hagler took on the legendary Roberto Duran. It has been said that the champion gave the challenger too much respect. But in the end, after 15 rounds, Hagler had won the unanimous decision. He had his long-awaited recognition as a dominant middleweight champion. But by not winning convincingly, Hagler had left a hint of doubt. His last defense was October 19, 1984. Remarkably, Mustafa Hamsho had returned as the #1 contender. His reward was more punishment from the champion. This time it lasted only 3 rounds as the undisputed middleweight champion, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, restored his image as one of the most powerful forces in boxing today.
No longer is he called the Motor City Cobra. He has returned as Thomas, the Hitman Hearns.
Thomas Hearns exploded from the Motor City with a ferocity rarely seen in the sport of boxing. As the WBA welterweight champion, his lethal combinations destroyed challengers like Pablo Baez. After 32 consecutive wins, a dream match had been made. The showdown of September 16, 1981 will live on as a classic. Hearns took the early lead from Sugar Ray Leonard, but in the 6th, the gutsy WBC champion had Thomas in desperate trouble. The tide had turned. Remarkably, Hearns outboxed Leonard in rounds 8 through 12. And here in the 11th, it was Leonard who was struggling to survive with a battered left eye. Then in the 14th, a hit on all 3 scorecards, Thomas Hearns had suffered his first defeat. But after climbing in weight, the Hitman bounced back. It was on February 27, 1982 that Hearns stopped a tough middleweight, Marcus Geraldo, in the first round. Geraldo had gone the distance with Hagler. And then, 9 months later, Hearns met Wilfred Benitez head-on for the WBC Super Welterweight title. The challenger pressed the defensive champion all night, picking his shots and scoring effectively. In the words of his trainer, Emanuel Stewart, he had outboxed the boxer. Hearns had also fought the later rounds with a broken right hand. But after 15 rounds, Thomas Hearns had won the majority decision. The Hitman had regained his pride and his status in boxing. 7 months later, Hearns stepped up in weight to meet a former light heavyweight contender named Murray Sutherland. Weighing 157.5 pounds, the Hitman once again proved his worth as a boxer. Sutherland later confided that he was hurt in the final round, calling Hearns a powerful middleweight puncher. Thomas called this fight a great test, stating, "It showed I belong in this division." It was hard to disagree. After crushing Duran in 2 brutal rounds, Thomas Hearns again successfully defended his WBC Super Welterweight title with a 3rd-round knockout of Fred Hutchings. The rebirth of the Hitman has struck fear in the boxing world as Thomas Hearns seeks his 3rd world title. It brings us to the fight. Both champions are peaking and both are determined.
We feel that the jab is going to be the key factor in the fight, the left hand, because we feel that if we can, once we can get Marvin to watch the left jab, get his mind on the left hand, then there will be no problem with getting other shots off.
Hearns' best defense is his offense, because that's the only way to how he knows how to fight. In my way, I have to make my defense my best offense. So, and though that I have both ways, because once I get him in trouble, I can change it around. Thomas don't have that ability.
I'm here to show the world that I have the ability to punch and power, to get in there and knock out middleweights, light heavyweights, whatever, welterweights, all the way up to the lightweight division. I have that power.
I have my mind focused on one thing, and that's to destroy him. That is to knock him out. If I have the opportunity, if it's there, I'm going to take it.
I think that this fight here will put me in the position to make greatness and put me one step closer to greatness, and which is to win the 4 titles.
That's what I feel. War. That's what's on my mind.
I don't see the fight going 12 rounds.
I've been feeding the faith, and I've been starving the doubt. So there's no doubt in my mind that I can't win this fight, or that I won't knock Thomas Hearns out.
And war is right. Hagler is still rankled at the cancellation 2 years ago by Hearns. They train differently. An old-time fighter, Hagler. He trains at Provincetown on Cape Cod. Then he went to Palm Springs and